Imagine waking up in the year 2075. You walk to your window, but you don't look at the weather to decide what to wear. You look at it to see if it's safe to go outside. For the first time in human history, the climate isn't just a background setting for our lives, it has become the lead character. We've spent decades talking about degrees and percentages, but we rarely talk about the reality of the morning routine in a world that has fundamentally shifted. This isn't a movie. It's the blueprint of the next century, and it's already being drawn.
Hey, welcome back to MindSpark, the place where curiosity comes alive. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered what would happen if things suddenly changed instantly? Stick with me, because the answer is way more shocking than you think.
Most of us think of the climate as something happening out there in the Arctic or the Amazon. But the truth is, the climate is the invisible thread tied to everything you touched this morning. It's in the price of the coffee beans in your kitchen, which are becoming harder to grow as tropical highlands warm up. It's in the insurance premium on your home, which is quietly rising because the math of predictable weather no longer works. We live in a hyper-connected web where a drought in one hemisphere becomes a supply chain crisis in the other. When we talk about the future of the climate, we aren't just talking about polar bears. We're talking about the stability of your grocery bill, your career, and your commute. The climate is the silent engine of our economy, and that engine is beginning to overheat. But if the economy is the first thing to feel the heat, the second thing is much more personal. It's the very ground we stand on. For the last 6,000 years, humanity has lived in what scientists call the human climate niche. This is a specific range of temperature and rainfall where our crops thrive and our bodies stay healthy. It is the Goldilocks zone of Earth. But as the climate shifts, that zone is moving. Imagine the entire habitable map of the world being picked up and shifted north. Places that were once the breadbaskets of the world are becoming too dry, while regions that were once frozen are suddenly becoming viable for life. This isn't just about heat, it's about a fundamental reorganization of where life including us can exist. By 2070, billions of people could find themselves living outside the conditions that allowed civilization to grow in the first place. This creates a question of migration, not just of people, but of forests, animals, and even diseases. Yet, as the map shifts, something else is happening beneath our feet, something that has been frozen for millennia, and it's starting to wake up. Deep in the northern hemisphere lies the permafrost ground that has been frozen for thousands of years. Think of it as Earth's giant freezer. Inside this freezer, nature has stored massive amounts of ancient organic matter, dead plants, animals, and even prehistoric microbes. As the planet warms, the freezer door is being left open. When this ground thaws, it doesn't just turn to mud. It releases methane, a gas that traps heat far more effectively than carbon dioxide. This creates what scientists call a feedback loop. The warmer it gets, the more the permafrost thaws, the more it thaws, the more gas it releases, and the more gas it releases, the warmer it gets. But it's not just gases. We are beginning to see the resurrection of ancient bacteria and viruses that have been dormant since the time of the mammoths. We are entering a future where we might have to contend with biological history we weren't prepared for. And while we look for ways to stop this, we often fall into the trap of believing in a magic wand that might not exist. If you follow the news, you've heard of carbon capture or geoengineering. These are massive technological projects designed to suck carbon out of the air or reflect sunlight back into space. It sounds like science fiction, and for now, it mostly is. The problem isn't that the technology doesn't work, it's the scale. To remove enough carbon to make a difference, we would need to build an industry the size of the current global oil and gas industry, but in reverse. We are trying to build a vacuum cleaner for the entire atmosphere. Relying on future tech to save the climate is like jumping out of a plane and hoping you can invent the parachute before you hit the ground. Technology is a tool, but it isn't a replacement for the systems nature already has in place. The most advanced carbon capture technology ever invented is actually millions of years old. It's called a tree. But even trees are facing a future they weren't designed for, leading us to a realization that changes how we view the end of this story. Nature is surprisingly resilient. In places where humans have stepped back, like the exclusion zone around Chernobyl, life hasn't just survived, it has exploded. This gives us a glimpse into a potential future. Rewilding. The future of Earth's climate isn't just a story of loss, it's a story of transformation. We are seeing the rise of climate-smart ecosystems. Forests that are being planted today aren't just collections of random trees. They are being designed to survive the heat of 2100. We are learning to work with the Earth's natural cooling systems, oceans, wetlands, and grasslands, rather than against them. The goal for the next century isn't to return the Earth to the way it was in 1950. That Earth is gone. The goal is to design a new balance. However, to find that balance, we have to address a harsh truth about what we are actually trying to save. Here is the twist that most people miss. The Earth does not need saving. In its 4.5 billion year history, our planet has been a molten ball of fire and a solid ball of ice. It has survived asteroid impacts that wiped out 90% of life and volcanic eruptions that lasted for millions of years. The Earth will be just fine. It will continue to spin, it will eventually find a new equilibrium, and life in some form will flourish. When we talk about saving the planet, what we really mean is saving our way of life. We are trying to save the specific, narrow conditions that allow 8 billion humans to have electricity, fresh water, and stable borders. The climate crisis isn't a threat to the rock we live on, it's a threat to the civilization we've built on top of it. This shift in perspective is vital. It moves the conversation from charity for the Earth to survival for ourselves. And that realization leads us to the most important question of all. The future of Earth's climate isn't a fixed point on a map. It's a series of choices. We are currently living through the most consequential century in the history of our species. The people living in 2100 will look back at this decade and see it as the moment the scales tipped either toward a managed transition or a chaotic one. We often feel small in the face of global changes, but remember, the climate is a reflection of human activity. If we have the power to change the chemistry of the atmosphere by accident, imagine what we can do on purpose. The real mystery isn't what the weather will be like in 50 years. The mystery is how we will choose to live with each other when the world begins to look different. If we can't even predict the weather next week, how can we be so sure about the end of the world? To understand the strange forces that keep our planet stable or tear it apart, you need to see what happens when the Earth's protector fails. What happens if the Earth's magnetic field suddenly flips? Watch our deep dive into the Earth's magnetic poles to find out. And if you're driven by curiosity, subscribe to MindSpark for more.
If this video made you think even for a second, hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe to MindSpark for more mind-blowing ideas and tell me in the comments what topic we should explore next. Until next time, keep your mind curious,